podcast. This is episode 5.
It's the podcast version of Communication Steroids. Put muscle in your message, part 4, presentation and technique.
I'm Roger Pike.
And that would make me Tim Gordon.
The one and only.
The one, the only. And you're, of course, the one and only, too. Before we get caught up in that, though.
We have a limited amount of time here. Let's get into the meat of the matter.
Yeah, we want to talk about presentation and technique of, giving presentations. So let's talk about some of the overall, themes that we cover in our longer 30 to 32-minute version of this.
Well, the first thing we want to talk about is preparation, and probably the first element of preparation once you're actually ready to make your presentation is know your room.
Knowing your room is very, very important. And in fact, I would suggest that you should go there and visit the room long before you give the speech, if at all possible. Let's say you're giving the presentation in the town that you live in, and you know that you're going to give it in, say, a couple of weeks. Swing by and check out the room. But also, the day of the presentation, get there early, at least an hour, if not more, so you can spec it out.
Mm-hmm. You need to know. I mean, sometimes you can be thrown by just the dimensions of the room. I gave a speech. That was the particular communication, the particular presentation that I made. It was a speech, and it was a state championship of public speaking. Yep. And it was a big deal. It was a big, important speech that I gave, and I was just shocked when I walked into the room because I hadn't done my homework. I didn't know what the room was like, and it was about 30 feet wide by about 300 feet long, and the podium almost bisected the room in half. So I had half of my audience to my right and half of my audience to my left, and it just threw me for a loop.
I bet it would. That's a very unusual situation. There are times, of course, when you cannot know what room you're going to be delivering. Let's say a sales presentation. You've got an appointment to go to company XYZ, and you don't know what room you're going to be in. There's no way you're going to go into this company. You just have to go in there cold. So in those situations, of course, you do the best you can. But it's a more intimate situation, unless you're giving it to 15 or 20 people of management, or you're going to basically be talking to a handful of people. So that's different than going into a room that you're going to give a presentation to a couple of hundred people in.
Exactly. And your presentation style is different when you're talking with 5 people. It's much more intimate. You're more of a group leader, even if you're doing all the talking. You have much more of a rapport, of initial rapport with the very few people than you have when you have like 300. Also, when you give a presentation to a very large group, to a crowd, you usually need to be more expansive with your voice and with your gestures, so that the folks in the back of the room, in the cheap seats, can actually see the difference between your small gestures and your big ones.
And if it is a presentation such as in front of a couple of hundred people, or even a lunch presentation, 25, 30 people, something like that, if you can arrange it, and maybe that means bringing your own, take a video camera. I think the idea of videotaping every performance you give, every presentation you give, is going to be one of the quickest routes to becoming a much better speaker. And that is what we're trying to do, is make you a better presenter in any situation. We want to make your communication be on steroids, give muscle to communications. I think this is really an overlooked sort of factor, and we've talked about it. But I think recording it, audio recording, if you can't do video recording, by all means, and then listen to it back as soon as it's convenient, because the sooner you listen back, the fresher it will be in your mind, and the easier you'll pick up things that you will correct and make better for next time around.
I still videotape all of my speeches, and I learn something from my speeches every time I give them about my presentation style and how to improve it.
And I think the other thing is that even if you're a presenter and you've been doing this for 20 or 25 years, it's your career, you will always become better by rehearsing before you go out and knowing your material cold. That is, of course, part of the presentation.
You can become a better presenter, too, by understanding the mechanics of body language, where you should be focusing your attention, what you do with your eyes, with your hands, the way that you move on stage, if there is a stage, or on the floor. All of that contribute to your effectiveness as a communicator.
And, I was told this, and we discussed this more at length in our longer version of this podcast, Communication Steroids. But, I was told when I first got into public speaking, pick a spot out, 10 or 12 rows back, just above the audience. And, that's where you're going to be watching. And that really is not good advice.
That's bad advice.
From what we've learned over the years. You really should learn to pick out a handful of friendly faces and use those as anchors, because if you find a friendly face that's intent on what you're saying, you're going to go back to them and you're going to be able to help deliver your message better. And they're going to help you because they want you to succeed, and you're going to find those folks out there. So use those as anchors, but certainly try and look everyone in the eye at one point or another.
Eye contact is incredibly valuable.
And as far as your body, depending on the room and the situation, if you're on stage, are you in front of people, do you have a lectern, do you have a podium, you should put some movement into your presentation.
Yeah, a lot of people like lecterns or podiums, and they like to stand behind them. It gives them a place to put their hands, a place to put their water, and a place to put their notes. But a podium separates you from your crowd, and the whole point that we're trying to make is, in adding muscle to your message, is to enhance your ability to connect with your crowd. And anything that separates you from them is to be avoided if you can. That doesn't mean that podiums are necessarily bad things, but they are a tool, not a crutch. Get out from behind them if you're going to use them.
And you'll become more personable and more dynamic to your audience just with that one simple technique. Also, the last major point we cover in our longer version of Part 4, Communications Steroids on Presentation and Technique, and that is your voice. A lot of things, and there's really 3 things that I think you really need to remember to control is your volume, your pitch, and your rate.
Yeah, those are the 3 things that you can vary most easily and get the biggest bang for your buck, the biggest result. Most people tend to speak too fast. I know I do. When you think that you're speaking slowly enough, you probably need to slow it down even further.
Yeah.
And then use rate as a tool to enhance meaning, use pitch as a tool to enhance meaning, and, of course, volume.
And those are all boiled down into the term dynamics, and whenever I see public speakers, and I'm asked to critique them, as I often have been, dynamics is one of the key things that I think that people can learn as a way of making themselves better public speakers, better public presenters, is using dynamics to their advantage, and that all boils down to the volume, the pitch, and the rate.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
And I think that will wrap up this podcast edition of Communication Steroids. By all means, please check out the entire program. It's available now at communicationsteroids.com, and we host it. We want to put muscle in your communication, muscle in your message, and that's what we aim to do. And we're going to keep producing programs and keep giving you ways to do that. And you can get a hold of us through Communication Steroids. Roger's been great again. I hope we do this again soon. Well, I know we are. We're planning to do this. So.
I'm Roger Pike, and I'm here to pump you up.
And I'm Tim Gordon. We appreciate you listening. Thanks a lot.